before we start, would you mind introducing yourself with your full name and tell me what your current occupation is, as well as any that have been relevant?
My name is Sarah Vickers. I worked for a year as a resident assistant at a dormitory college, a college dormitory, my bad, as well as a nanny for multiple years. And I consent and give my permission for you to use this footage.
Okay. All right, so I would like to hear about your experience of gender in the workplace. Can you tell me about your work in as much detail as possible?
Sure. So, first of all, working as a nanny, from day one, that was my line of work. I was coming out of, middle school, babysitting kids, basically. Because as a girl, it's kind of what you do. You go and you, if you want to earn any kind of money, you babysit, and that's kind of what you do. Which is weird to think about now, because, my brother never had the option to, babysit. That wasn't, for him. He mowed lawns, and I think he still mows lawns. He's 15. But, and then, I don't know, I just find that so strange that, that's just kind of what I do.
It's expected for girls to, as their first job, babysit. Mm-hmm. And if a boy would want to do that, I guess maybe, do you think someone would find that weird? Like a 12-year-old boy babysitting, young children.
It's weird to think about because it's almost unheard of for boys to babysit, which I think is ridiculous considering men are fathers. Men have to deal with kids in life just as much as women do, but I guess young girls kind of get taught that it's an expectation to basically, that's what you're gonna do if you want to be successful, that is the first job. And, I mean, that's fair. That's what I did. There's no changing that now. But
do you think that young boys not babysitting, do you think that has anything to do with how when everyone gets older, it is still the woman's job to take care of the children? Do you think that even today people still assume that?
I do think society plays a huge role in shaping that kind of young expectation and transferring it to adulthood, where you almost are expected to raise the children while in the modern day and age also have a working job. So I feel like it's a lot of expectations put on the women as well as the guys, because I mean I think it's kind of stupid that girls aren't expected to do manual labor. I can change a light bulb. I can do plenty of things. Around this house, I do a lot of the work. One time the door got stuck, locked from the inside, and no one knew how to get it open but me.
That's unexpected.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's how do you feel about, how would you feel about why it's expected that you wouldn't know how to do that, but maybe that the boy in the house is probably expected to do that?
I feel like it's kind of an expectation to have boys and girls to have kind of different skill sets. Women are kind of seen as the more empathetic, more nurturing kind of figures, more able to if someone's upset, calm them down, or I don't know, I don't want to say cook, but I feel sometimes women are expected to be better cookers. Cookers? Is that even a word? No. Chefs. Anyways, but and then guys are more expected to do the weird odd jobs around the house, I don't know, like raking leaves or like fixing like doorknobs or something, which is also funny because I also replaced the doorknobs in this house. You know, that's just kind of.
It's just how women are going.
Yeah.
So, next question. Can you describe a typical day in your work and what activities do you do? Like, you can choose either of your job, probably like nanny would be.
As a nanny, I start off the day by picking up the kids from school, which is kind of part of the job description. You have to have kids to do the job, as well as like we get home, I make them do their homework, make them kind of like some kind of snack. Like it's Boulder, the kids are picky. Have to make them a snack. It's not just like here's a bowl of Cheez-Its.
They're like, nah, I want.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyways, yeah, no, so like make them food, like do the dishes, just kind of entertain them like for the rest of the day, you know, till like dinner time, which I mean is pretty like typical like nanny work, whereas like babysitting, like with that I've done way more and like done laundry for like the house and like cooked like full on meals and like tidied up and uh put like the kids to bed, like very like typical housewife chores.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that that's expected of like childcare sometimes. Like it's big these days for childcare to involve those kind of like household chores almost instead of like just I don't know. I feel like that's a little weird to me sometimes.
Yeah. So if you were sick one day and you wanted someone to cover, do you think like just a random guy off the street could do everything that you do? Like would he know just the day-to-day and like step by step of when you pick the kids up from school all the way to when the parents come home? Do you think he would know just basically what to do and how to do things?
I think it would be really difficult if I were to basically like step out of the picture and let like for example a guy do a lot of like the tasks that kind of go on during the day like for watching kids because like for example my brother, he's 15, he has had no like experience with any of that and like one time I brought some kids over that I was watching at the time to my parents' house where obviously my brother lives, he's young. And he wanted nothing to do with those children. Like, it was so bizarre because I think of him as a pretty, like, kind and empathetic, like, typically more, like, sensitive kind of guy. But he still, like, nothing to do with it. So, like, if I threw him into a situation where he, like, hypothetically had to watch kids, he would, like, flounder. Like, most guys I know have never changed a diaper, have never fed a baby, you know, like full on like bottle feed, you know, where like it's bizarre to think about. Like they're good at like the like playing side, but other than that, I don't know how that would really go. I would be worried for a good portion of people to try and take on that role
to put
if they don't know anything like off the street, like some guy just, hey, can you take my job for me? Like,
just to put their kids in the hands of a boy who's never really had experience with that.
Yeah, because I mean, like, as a babysitter, a lot of the time, like, people will ask for, like, recommendations for, like, their friends or, like, while you're gone, and, like, I could basically recommend, like, anyone, and, like, if, like, I'm working for them, they're gonna trust me to give them, like, a good recommendation. And, like, if I were to recommend a guy, like, a lot of the time, I don't know how a family would feel about that. I feel like they might try and look elsewhere and have that be, like, a worst case scenario. Just because there's, like, that kind of weird stigma around, like, the girls have to take care of the kids and the guys can't, or the guys are creepy and shouldn't take care of children, which I don't really understand, because like that's a lot to put on half of Earth's population.
More than half, but yeah.
Yeah.
So along those lines, do you think that babysitting in the past became like a young girl's job so they could basically train her to be a housewife? And along those same lines, is that why so many boys go away to college and they don't know how to do laundry, they don't know how to cook, they don't know just how to do basic day-to-day things that we learn when we're young because we're babysitting and we have to do those things to get paid.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's almost like a weird kind of training system for like young girls to kind of, it's a rite of passage almost to be able to like do that kind of stuff. Like, it's so strange to think about now. But can you repeat that one more time? That was really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so just from the past where people would start babysitting their kids, do you think it was because they wanted to put young girls in that position to be able to learn?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part of the question was, do you think also that has become the reason why boys, when they get to be that age where they're off on their own, that they don't know how to do laundry and cook and the basics?
Yeah.
They don't know. A lot of boys don't even know how to buy like cleaners. They're like, I don't know, like, what do we use?
Okay, I'm gonna address the second one in a little, like, in a hot second, because the first one, like, I feel like having like the kind of ritualistic aspect of like girls babysitting at a young age probably like almost stems from like a historical point of view, where like the girls stayed home to watch the younger kids and like take care of them, and kind of had to be the mom if the mom needed to like go do anything. So it was very like women and children stay at home, and so like that almost like mentality is probably like ingrained throughout our society. Like some little things have like changed here and there, but like that like kind of one where like the girls stay at home and need to like train almost to become like women, and like women like to become a woman. Like I feel like child rearing is a very weirdly important quality that like has evolved a lot, but at the same time, like definitely from like young ages, girls are taught to play with baby dolls and taught to like. It's so strange because I also worked at a daycare center, so I like witnessed a lot of like one-on-one like child interactions, and the ways like kids played at like really early ages like always like astounded me, because like girls definitely like gravitated towards like baby dolls and dress up kind of stuff, and would act out what their parents did, and they would never like do like alternating ones. They would always like, the little girls would always like sling a purse over their shoulder and be like, bye, I'm off to the store, you know, like a very mom thing to do.
Yeah.
Or like be talking on the phone about shoes, and like, you know, it was very like typical stuff. And like same with like babies, like they would know what to do with a baby. They would know that you need to change its diaper and feed it at like the age of 2. So like very hardwired, and then the boys would like be banging on stuff with blocks and like pretending to be construction workers. How girls are kind of brought up to be homemakers in a sense. Like there's the other side of that where like guys get to college and they sometimes really don't know how to adult. Like, especially when it comes to tasks around the house, like, in, like, past experience, like, when I was an RA, like, I had kids coming up to me all the time, like, more often guys, like, asking, like, how to do dishes, how to do laundry, how to do this, that, like, so many different things. And I feel like that's kind of the effect of girls being almost expected to learn these things and guys expected to learn the other things, like where girls do more homemakery stuff, cooking, cleaning, bleh, and guys can't do any of that, like when they get to a certain age, which is not beneficial to either party, considering like my brother who is 15 literally doesn't make any food for himself, like can't, like makes my mom make him a salad, and salad is very easy. You put lettuce and dressing, and you're set. Like there is no like difficulty in that, but I don't know. She just makes it the right way apparently. That and like others like little things, like when I was in RA, like this one kid literally didn't know that you just literally put a dish pod into a dishwasher and it's good to go. No, instead he's like, dishes, dish soap. Takes the dishwasher, dish soap just squirts it on in there and floods the entire kitchen with bubbles. You know? Just typical guy stuff. And just countless weird stories like that, because half the time, like, their moms take care of them so much and, like, don't teach them. It's kind of like the saying goes where you give a man a fish, he doesn't go hungry, but you teach a man to fish, and he never goes hungry again. But it's so strange, because I know a man who is going to go hungry for the goddamn rest of his life because his mom, even in college, comes to his house that he has with a bunch of other guys and vacuums and does the dishes and the laundry and buys some groceries, and she's literally like a built-in housekeeper for this 22-year-old man who can't learn how to do a damn thing by himself. And it's gonna be a very rude awakening later on, because if he ever gets a girlfriend, which is not likely, then he's gonna be like screwed, because she's gonna get fed up real quick with just the ineptness of it all, because it's so important to like at least be able to do the necessities, because like hint number one for how to get a girl: cook. Case and point.
Yes.
Like, it's ridiculous, like how the simple things can translate so well.
Yeah. So kind of going along the same lines of what we're talking about, of how girls are raised to do these things, boys are raised to do these things. You said they have different skill sets almost when they get older.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the activities that you've noticed, like, in your work, where, like, just women do these and just men do these? Besides, like, you can include nannying in there, where, like, obviously women nanny and babysit. But then in your RA position, have there been any things where, like, mostly women were kind of expected to do them, and like men were expected to do other things? Is there anything like that?
Mm-hmm. So when I was an RA, a lot of the time, like, one of our main jobs was like to put on events for like the kids, like, you know, typical like break out of your comfort zone kind of stuff, like very freshman cheesy stuff. And so like a lot of the time, like, it's kind of bizarre. We would like be expected to do certain events, like they had to be of different like qualities. So like we had to do stuff like plan craft nights, or like dodgeball teams, random stuff like that. Well, like a thing that I noticed a lot of the time was as a girl, you know, like when we would plan something that was like typically like more feminine based, like none of the guys were expected to come to the event and help out at all. And like adversely, like if there was like a dodgeball like thing or like something like sports, something like bigger like that, like we were seriously like if we weren't there, like we were like shunned at the meeting next week, like how come you're not a team player? And I'm like, but Billy Bob Joe, name dropping here. He didn't come to my event last week. How come I'm expected to go to his event if, like, they're just like, well, he's a guy. Like, why would he want to go, like, paint nails? Why would he want to go do henna? And I'm just like, well, it's not really about doing it. It's about kind of being a support, like, system. And I just always, like, kind of got annoyed at the fact that there were those kinds of things, and because a lot of like girl based activities are more, they're like, there's like this some weird thing that guys can't be associated with those, but when it comes to guy events like football and sporting, like football games, like you're like, I feel like just everyone is kind of like, it's frowned upon to not participate in those kind of like team bonding, like all natural American things, where I'm just like, well, why isn't like gymnastics an all American sport? Like,
so basically, what you're saying is like there's different standards for men and women, where women have to go to everything, but then men, if something's considered feminine, they don't have to go. But even if something is considered masculine, women still go in support.
Yeah, definitely where women are involved, they have to go to both the women oriented activities as well as like the men ones, because the men ones are seen as like both masculine but also like generalized. Like it's much more like widely accepted than a lot of the things that like girls typically like find fun, which is not very equal when you think about it. Like,
yeah.
Some differences that really got to me working there was what came with the front desk. So front desk, main entryway to the building, kind of like a concierge almost at a hotel. Like we would like do mail and check in guests and lead tours and do a bunch of like computer based stuff. And so like I had been working at the front desk for 2 years, because before I was an RA, I was just purely a desk attendant. The year prior, and so I was very like well versed in comparison to a lot of the other like newly like fresh RAs, who had been working there like maybe a few months at this point. And one time, our like front desk manager, who was an adult, not a student, quit, and they were super super desperate and short staffed and needed someone to fill that. And like the like more likely decision, like the more like I guess rational decision in that like case and time would have been to like ask one of the like senior staff, being like the RAs who have worked there the longest, which at that point I was like definitely like top like 3 people at the time, like me and like 2 other girls. But at the time, like my boss was looking for someone, and she asked my co-RA, the guy on the other like half of my floor, and he had only been working there for a few months. Didn't really have the best work ethic. Was kind of more like socially favorable compared to like some people, I guess. So like overall, like I was probably a pretty darn good choice for like the front desk like managerial position because I had worked there for a very long time. I had been like employee of the month multiple times for this front desk position, and just like I have trained almost like half of the student staff, uh, basically doing those like managerial position like duties up until that point in time, and they ended up asking my co-RA to do it. I was never in any kind of consideration for the position. And to me, that was just kind of odd at the time. And like, as I kind of thought more about it, I just kind of got a little bit angry thinking about it because, like, my boss was a guy at the time. He was really good buddies with my co-RA. So, like, sometimes you gotta wonder if, like, favoritism kind of came into play with that and choosing, like, that promotion, which is unfair because, like, I mean, like myself, I feel like there were other people more qualified for the position, but this guy who, like, more often than not was found to be not doing his job, really apathetic towards, like, the students, and just, like, overall kind of, like, lackluster in performance, like, to be perfectly honest, would, like, get all this, like, recognition for being such a great RA. And I'm like, but he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. Like, I spent, like, nights on end, like, helping these kids. Literally, like, woken up at midnight because some girl in the hall's crying, and I gotta go console her. But half the time, he's out on, like, dates, just out of the building, like, 24/7. But, like, all of, like, his, like, buddy bosses would always be like, oh my gosh, he's so good. Like, he is the best RA I've ever seen. He's a legend in making. And I'm just like, what qualifies that? Is it, like, because you're a guy and you think he's a fun guy to pal around with? Like, personally, like, that doesn't seem fair to me in a work-based environment. And at the time, I really, like hurt my feelings. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it was disappointing. It was really disappointing.
So do you think it really could have been a possibility that it was because, he's a guy with, like, the charm where he was chosen over someone with much more experience just because, like, yeah, maybe you already said that. Like, he is a guy.
He was a guy. He was a pal. He was a buddy. Yeah. I was not. I had the work experience. He had the charm.
I feel like that
classic Hollywood plot movie.
Yeah. Do you think the same thing happens in a lot of other workplaces where men might be chosen over women just because of that aspect?
No, I definitely do feel like it probably happens a lot more than you would think. Guys being chosen over women because guys often are seen as, like, more charming, more funny, more sociable, and, like, that's good and all that, but I don't feel like that's what makes a good worker. Like, the social factor sometimes can be a piece, especially, like, if you're in a very, like, social job, like networking or whatever. But, like, in a case where I knew, like, the system, the function, like, the whole, like, layout of the front desk, like, the back of my hand, and this kid, like, basically, like, walked in there and just made friends, like, that doesn't seem like a fair trade to me. So it's been needed to be talked about for a really long time that in workplace environments, just like any ordinary day situation, like, women face a very big chance of sexual harassment. And, like, all the movie stars coming out recently with their complaints of that one specific producer, like, making either very, like, vulgar advances or even, like, minuscule, like, passes at women. Like, it's something that's, like, not talked about a lot of the time because people are afraid they're gonna lose their jobs, or like that they're not gonna get the part they wanted in like that movie example. Like even like back when I was an RA, I even faced like similar things, like with guys making really crude comments towards me, and like it just was handled in a not very good way a lot of the time. Like for example, like if any of the like students in the dorm building would make crude comments towards any of the girls, they like get no repercussion. Like it was kind of gross in that manner, and like even worse, like when other like co-RAs like would like who were got like male would like make kind of gross like suggestive comments about girls, like either like student girls, like just kind of on the sly, or like us to like our faces, like they would like see no repercussion with that. They thought it was a joke half the time. Like one time I literally like nudged one of my coworkers, and he's just like, sexual harassment. Like it's a big joke to some people, and it's just very weird how that's treated in the workplace between like genders. Like girls find that to be such a big deal because it's so prevalent in our lives. Like I don't know if there's anyone, like any girl, woman, whomever, that can say for a fact that they've never experienced like catcalling or invasive comments or literally any of this in their day-to-day lives. And it's kind of sickening to an extent. And a lot of employers don't get that when it comes to that kind of stuff, which is sad. But like that your gender can really define your life in such a way, like especially like your work experience.
Gender sometimes makes the workplace a difficult place to be for some people. How management handles things is different, and people have kind of normalized it because it happens so often, and that's why management might handle it the way it is. And maybe just come back to what you were saying about what happened to you and maybe how management handled your situation.
Yeah, just gender being handled in the workplace, as well as just relating to gender in work environments, can be a difficult topic, as well as just can make it difficult for some people to even work sometimes with gender discrimination in the workplace or anything regarding that. Like even like in my situations, it wasn't handled well, which is unfortunate, but it happens a lot, and I feel like it really needs to be talked about.
Good. Nice. Okay. Thank you for the interview. Thank you for sitting down there.
Thank you. But I'm sure.